who receive county support, requesting that they reduce their numbers by, and some numbers were given as minimum amounts for them to reduce.
I didn't know it was a request, I thought it was an order.
Okay. It was a demand.
Okay. I thought I made a demand.
It wasn't a choice, no.
Okay.
I thought it was clear.
Yeah.
I thought it was very clear.
So I went to those agencies yesterday, the agencies being Cedar Haven, Children and Youth, Renova, MHMR and EMA. If you remember, many of those had some substantial increases in county support over last year, and over the last several years, but really noticeable this year. So I gave you a packet that shows what those agencies did by the end of the day yesterday, which is the time they were given. There's the one that's not included in here is MHMR, because it wasn't itemized. They simply reduced their county support by $50,000 by just going through and tweaking all of the different cost centers to get to $50,000. I talked to Kevin yesterday afternoon. It's not anything that's going to make a noticeable impact or visible impact or anything that's felt necessarily to services. So it's not something that's going to be, going to generate from Cedar Haven. And Ed itemized their combination of capital cuts, or the first four. The remaining of them are overtime hours that he's going to decrease or eliminate between now and the end of the year. They had not yet booked their decrease in health benefits. That was only done after the budget hearings. So their total decrease was requested. They decrease it, or it was demanded. Sorry, I'll keep using that word. That they decreased their county support by $250,000. They actually came up to $262,022. I'll point you to those. EMA's impact was twofold. There's an impact on 2011 and an impact on 2012. I think all of you are familiar with Act 56 funding, which is wireless funding that comes in through the fee that's charged on every cellular account. Annually, we've been applying to PEMA for a share of that money based on known costs for wireless 911 expenses. While PEMA often approved the amounts we requested, they didn't have the money. They would approve it and say, you're going to get this money, it's just a question of when. It's similar to the district attorney reimbursement from the state. You're going to get it, they just don't know when until they have the money. They being the state, has been getting much better at collecting. Maybe the collections are up too because of more wireless lines, collecting and disseminating that money out to the counties. So two things have happened. We've seen more Act 56 wireless money this year as they play catch up, and we now feel that Act 56 wireless money has become, that receipt of the Act 56 money has become more reliable. Before, it was treated like a windfall. If they approved it, but for years you didn't get it. So EMA staff yesterday afternoon were comfortable at this point that it's coming in regularly enough that we can put an amount in to offset, that we can count on to offset some Act 78 expenses next year.
A concern.
Lowers the county support number to $2,571,000. So that's a reduction of two. We were looking for $100,000 from EMA, actually ended up with $250,000 in reduction. Back one page, this next. In order for Children and Youth to cut $50,000 in county support, which is again the number given to them, they had to actually reduce their overall budget by $170,000 to realize that $50,000, because some of these categorical funds are not, they're not 100%. He put the county share percentage there in each. In the Renova Center, they are going to have the number of HVAC units that they were intending to replace next year from 8 to 4. And the remaining Roman is proposing to do through reducing overtime and delaying staff replacement. That's something you guys did earlier, the first half of this year, by freezing positions. And so those five combined come up to an impact of $613,366 in reduction of county support. Definitely pull out of there.
I thought we had agreed to it, maybe I'm mistaken.
Well, two of us agreed to it.
Okay. Well, I didn't give these numbers to Angel yet, so then if you're definitely pulling out the pension contribution of 500,000, then you're at $1,000,001.
Well, I'd like the controller to explain why we feel comfortable doing that, because
Yesterday when Bill asked, I went back and looked. They're using a salary assumption of 4.5 per year, which includes an inflation rate of 3%. The 9-year average from when they first started, incurring ARCs, is 3.57%. So that's fairly close. The investment rate of return assumption is 7.5. Our 10-year average has been 4.1, and our 5-year has been 4.2. So their return assumption is much higher than the actual return. And these numbers, the 4.5 and the 7.5, it's consistent with every county in the state of Pennsylvania. That's just, I don't know how those numbers came about originally, but in looking at other counties and seeing their actuarial assumptions, it's the same. So it's not like we're not any different than any other county in that respect.
well, after you went back and
Well, when I went back and looked, if we take the difference between the 7.5 assumption per year for those 9 years and the 5-year return, and if I subtract those numbers, I came to, I think, 30-point-something%. And if I took those numbers and multiplied them by the 86 million in the retirement fund right now, it basically comes up within about $1.5 million of what our total unpaid ARCs are for that 8-year
For
period.
that whole period.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's mainly where the most of that is coming from.
The problem
in my
is
opinion.
the actuary is taking 7.5%. We're getting 4.2%, and then he's compounding the 7.5% year after year, and that's why it looks